Hi there, my name's Mike Winkup. I am Head of Design here at Galaxy Multirides, and in today's video we're going to walk you through the different phases on creating your own inflatable park. We're going to use some real world life examples, and then we're going to try answer any questions that you may have, or if you haven't thought about them already, present some questions and the answers for you. So without further ado, why don't we get into it? So we've broken this down into 9 different phases. We're going to use real world examples, and in this case we're going to use our very good friends at Air City 360. They're based in Colorado Springs. This was a brand new build from the ground up, so there was nothing there, just some land, and it was a full service design, for them. So we're going to go through the different phases, and we're just using a page here from the brochure just to use it as an example in terms of the different phases, going through this initial conversation of how you get started, what kind of questions you're going to want to bring up, and what kind of questions we're going to have for you, through to that site evaluation, whether you have a site or not, and we'll talk about how to go about that process if you don't have a building and how we can help you with that. And then the thing that everyone gets kind of scared about is those measurements and plans. We've done all kinds of things, from full CAD drawings all the way through to hand sketch drawings, and built parks off that. So we've kind of done it all. We'll then move into talking about concept designs. So talking about our proprietary software and how we quickly turn around park renders for you. From there, we go into the engineering phase and show what kind of engineering drawings look like and how we change things at that point. After that, kind of the admin side, the confirmation, and then the manufacturing and the shipping processes. Before we get onto the fun stuff, which is the installation, seeing the park come to life in your facility. After that, we'll touch upon the training modules and how we do that on site with you and your staff. And then we'll finish off with the still photography and the videos that we do, that we produce not only for ourselves, but for you to use as your marketing. Let's get into how to design an inflatable park. Phase 1 is let's talk about it. We can do this in a number of ways. We can either just do this over the phone traditionally, where we'll talk about different parts of the process, questions. Do you have a building? Is this an existing facility? Is this a brand new project from the ground up? Do you have a building? Do you not have a building? Things like that. I will place a link in the description below where you can book a 30-minute design consultation with me, where we'll be able to go through your project and just get to the bare bones of where we're at and what we're trying to achieve and how we get there. So I know it sounds very simple, because it is, but that first step is just to talk about it. You may be very, very early in the process. You may not have funding, you may not have a building, but you may have just seen a video or gone into a facility and thought, I would like to bring this to my local community. And there's nothing wrong with that. So let's talk about it, let's have a chat, and hopefully then we'll move on to phase 2. So phase 2 is site evaluation. For the example that we're using in this video, we're using Air City 360 in Colorado Springs. This was a brand new build in terms of the building. They had the land as part of an entertainment development in their area. They're next to a go-kart track and a Top Golf, so a great anchor location to bring in the visitors. So they had the dimensions of the building that they knew that they were going to build. And as we can see in this rough plan, that was to scale actually, that they brought to us. So they've laid it out with kind of where they want to put their facilities. So in this top left-hand corner, they have their kitchen and their bathrooms, party rooms, and their mezzanine. And then they were laying out their attractions roughly to scale to see what could fit where. This is super helpful as a designer because it shows a clear intent from our clients of what they're trying to achieve, and how they envisage the rough layout. I mean, as we go on, you'll notice that this does change radically, and that's very typical in terms of these projects. to be clear, we don't need detailed drawings like this to go forward. We have built parks based off sketches on pieces of paper with handwritten measurements. Although we don't recommend it, it worked out and no problems whatsoever. We've done that a couple of times. So you don't need full detailed CAD drawings or architect drawings if you don't have them. And we realize that sometimes that they're just not available. So just to put that out there. But in terms of your site evaluation, we will look at things such as the local demographics of your area, whether if this is a new project, the area can support the level of project that you're wanting to bring. We will evaluate things like ceiling heights, floor conditions, air conditioning, HVAC units. Do you have enough parking? What kind of disabled access and fire access is required? And it's important to get all these things at the very beginning of the project so that we're not having to go back and revise designs and come into problems effectively. So typical ones are space, are there columns in the way, ceiling height is obviously the big one, because what sets us apart from different attraction profiles is that we can build around your building. A lot of these projects are custom designed for your space. So we've done places that have a high ceiling in one area, and then all of a sudden it will drop down to a 12-13 foot area, and we're still able to accommodate as long as we know about it and we can design around that. So this initial phase of site elevation evaluation, I should say, is very important. And if the site's not right, we have no problem telling you that. We're here to help you grow your business. It's not in our nature to say, oh yeah, this is fine, we can make it work, if we know that it's not going to give you the best platform for success. Because at the end of the day, we thrive when you guys thrive. So we're not here just to sell you a product, we're here to help you build your business. But that's kind of site evaluation. We're going to put some more detailed comments in the description below, and we can follow up on that in terms of if you have specific questions, we'd love to hear them in the comments as well. So if there's something you want to know, we can do a follow-up video or we can add to this one. But that's phase 2, which is site evaluation. And then we're going to move seamlessly on to the next phase. So the next phase is the measurements and plans. And for whatever reason, this seems to scare individuals and get panicked about. As I mentioned in the previous chapter, we've done projects based off a hand-drawn sketch on a legal notepad, where the customer has taken measurements with a tape measure. It's not ideal, and we would prefer a CAD drawing like we're seeing up on screen right now, but it means that it can be done, because sometimes, depending on the age of the building or the landlord, you're just not able to get high quality plans like this, and the expense of having an architect draw them up sometimes doesn't warrant the project. So still using our example of Air City 360 in Colorado Springs, this was the architect's plan that we got sent. This is just the PDF version, not in CAD, for the sake of the presentation here. And we can see already how little things have changed. So in the bottom corner here, we have this whole platform for the zip line that they ended up putting in, versus if we just go back, we can see that the zip line they had envisaged was on the back wall here with the climbing. So we're starting to see it come alive, and even after this, you will see changes once we get into the finished pictures of the park, because this soft play unit in the middle didn't end up being there. But we can see in this top left hand corner, as I previously mentioned, we've got a dining area, kitchens, party rooms, and then there's an upper level to this mezzanine. But this nice big clear white space in the top corner is what they gave me. And on the digital version of this, we were able to measure and know exactly what kind of space that we had and what kind of clearance we needed for fire clearance. There's a fire door at the back over here as well. And the architect also places in the height elevation. So obviously super important for us, because we're trying to maximize every inch of the ceiling space, because the taller we can go, the more dramatic and more exciting we can make our attractions. So we've got the heights built in there, and we knew what we were working with. But when we do this with you, we can do it through site pictures as well, or even site visits. We can come on and evaluate the site for you if you have committed to a building already, or whether you have an existing facility that you're just trying to refresh. So measurements plans are obviously very crucial. This example does not have any columns that were in our space. We can see the columns through the middle of the park here. But more often than not, columns are not a problem. I mean, columns are never a problem. We've done huge columns in facilities across Europe, in big engineering plants where the columns are maybe 5-6 times normal, the normal size of a standard column that you would see here in the US. So if you've got columns, don't worry. We'll talk about that in the plans. We'll go over site pictures or video tours, the amount of FaceTime calls that I've done and people walking around and me getting them to, would you look up and look at the sprinklers and measure this or measure that, or we send somebody out. So that's typically what happens next. And then we move on to kind of what the fun stuff is, which is our concept designs. So stage 4 is the fun part. This is concept designs, and this is where we get into the nuts and bolts and actually do some designing. And to do this, we designed our own proprietary software that allows us to render a full inflatable park in as little as 10 minutes. So we can either do this over a video call, or we can do it on site at a trade show. So if you've got rough sizes or plans, bring them to IAPA. We can sit down and do those designs. So let's get into the software. So we have, for this example of using of Air City, we already have their design done, but it's just going to give you a brief, quick example of what their park can look like. So for this, we're rounding down slightly, so it's 103 by 69. And because these are the concept renders, we're able to change the sizes and just have a rough layout that we'll then take into engineering, which we'll talk about next. So the first part of the software here is the structural tool, and we don't have any columns or need any measurements to put in here, but I'm able to move around and know exactly the pinpoint of this entire grid, of this entire space. And if I wanted to, in the middle here, we can put down a column, and then when we go back into the next phase, there's the column stood nice and tall as it was. But considering we don't have any columns, we will carry on to the design phase. And in this module tool area here, we can see our space. And across the bottom here, we have all our different elements, from obstacle courses, slides, interactives, mechanicals, toddler zones and extras, and lots of little details like that. Let's build out their design, because we know roughly what it looks like. So we have our ninja wall, and we have a battle zone somewhere in here. We have the first version. We've since changed it and upgraded it, but we're trying to recreate what we did back for Air City during this process. And as we get into the slides, we had an extreme slide over here, and then the drop zone slide, which is our biggest slide that we currently do, was in the corner here. I'm doing this very quickly. As we can see, these are not Air City's colors, but we will change them in a moment. In the front, while still in interactives, we had a wrecking ball down here in the corner. And actually, down at the front here, we had the mechanicals. We had Meltdown. And I'm actually going to go back on myself, because I remember that we had a discrepancy of 6 feet extra that we cut away. So what I typically do is I will measure up 6 feet, which I seem to have eyeballed pretty well first time. And then I will place a marker, which in this case is going to be a column, just for me to know where that 6 feet starts in the park. Because as we go to the next screen, that line disappears, but we can still see the columns. Now, we need to put in our moon bounce, and the moon bounce, for those wondering, is our extra bouncy area. It's where you get the most air from the park. And then we need a entry arch, which this may change a little bit, which is approximately about there. And then we had some biff bash, and we're able to manipulate and change all these units and spin them. So we have the entrance on the other side here, and the only things missing now are the small volcano slide, which is approximately there if I remember. And then to simulate like a seating bench, we had these blocks from the ninja course that we placed in here. And they just work as a nice placeholder for when we get into engineering. So at this stage we have the bare bones of the park, but we know that these are not our colours. So we know that this bright blue, and I believe it's grey, grey, black, I think we have some purple in here, and the yellow was the other colour. Right, so we're kind of there. Right, so next stage, once we've got our modules roughly where we want them, we will then go in and we are going to draw in, not in the right colour at the moment, we are going to draw in our floor to fill in that area. And we know that this floor in these pictures actually came out, and this was blue and black for these colors. So it's that electric blue, and then we go with a black. Okay, once we're at this stage, this needs a little bit of cleaning up, but once we're at this stage we can then go on to the wall tool. Now this allows us to fill in the containment walls in the park across all 4 sides. Now what I've done here isn't technically right, so we'll get to this stage and we will go to the end and we will see that we have got this very rectangle looking space with our floor in front, fully rendered. But we can do a little bit of tidying up here. So we're going to go back to the module. Well, we're going to go back to the wall tools. We're going to delete these 2 walls because those paying attention, the actual wall followed the edge of the meltdown to create that space. And then when we go back, we're going to delete this floor. We are going to fill in to there, and fill in approximately there. I didn't quite get that right. I'm just going to fill in these spaces here. Okay, and as we go back, it's starting to look better, but still some of these attractions aren't in fully the right place. And if you're wondering why we've left gaps between the 2, when it comes to engineering, this whole thing is going to tighten up, and tolerances and the units will be made for this park. So everything is adaptable, both in height and width and depth, depending on the park. But I'm going to go back one more level. Let's get rid of these columns because they don't exist. And then as we go all the way through to the camera, get rid of this, we now have a fully 3D rendered version of the park where we can see through any level. We can see the back here, we can come in and get great still shots. So here's Here's a vision of the park from as if you're in the Meltdown, or if you want to be stood on top of the battle beam, here we are. And you can go, do you know what, Mike? That's great, but do you know what? I'm just not loving the colours. These are the colours that we ended up with, or at least the starting point before we started picking out engineering pictures. But you're like, do you know what? No problem. We can go back, and in the blink of an eye, we can say, I actually going to change the whole premise, and let's make this orange and pink. This is going to be kind of garish looking, but we can change every single colour in the park according to your preference. So there's no right or wrong, or people may deny that, but you know, we can have a super multicolored park. And we can even change the colours of the floors to reflect that. So all of a sudden we have a very different looking park all of a sudden, and a totally different theme. So this is how quickly we can pull together and change the theme. And if you say, Mike, you know, actually I like it how it was, it's no problem to go back and revert to the colours that we were using. So that first colour was that nice bright blue, the second colour, I think third was purple, fourth was black, and the accent colour is yellow. Oh, we're missing a colour. There's the grey, there we go. And then we're back to where we were. And even at this point, you can be like, well, Mike, what other options have I got to change in terms of some of the attractions? And we could take out the wrecking ball, for example, and we could put in, I don't know, is one of the earlier designs. We did have a 3-ball design. Obviously, we would have to change that wall that's currently still sticking through that first ball, but it just goes to show how quickly we can add things in, take them out, or go, do you know what, Mike? Can I fit a whole dodgeball court in this corner? You could, but it's going to dominate the park. You know, we can move things around as easily as this. So this is the really exciting part, when we get to play around and you see which elements that we want to put into the park. And from here, we'll get you a full presentation with multiple different views of the park and the design that we'll sign off on, and even these detailed pictures that can be used for marketing until we get some real world examples. But that is the exciting part, and that is the concept design process. Now we move on to engineering. So we have finished the design concept phase, and we're in agreement of what we want the park to look like. Now it's time to move into engineering. Now, engineering is, we do it on our manufacturing side of the software, which means that everything that we design is down to the millimeter for accuracy, because whatever we design here is what's being cut in terms of the vinyl in the machine and what gets stitched together. This is where we mark out lines and make notes of where it gets stitched together, what colors go where, do we have glow in some elements, where needs Velcro, where needs strengthening, that kind of thing. And what that looks like is we start off with a very early phase of the engineering where we're laying out, we're using models from previous parks that we've done. So in this case, we've got some red and blue, there's some black and red over here. So we're using elements for 3 or 4 different parks, just to lay it out and see that we kind of, are we in the right idea? Has everything that Mike has put together in the design concept phase, is it going to fit, and how is it going to look? Now from there, we take these and we add the different colors and the branding to this particular park, and we will overlay it onto the plans that we have from them. So this is just a screen grab from the software, but as you can see, there's a lot of detail in here of where the trampolines are, where the zip line is, and more importantly, all the different measurements that we have for our different elements in the park. So breaking down the module sizes individually, and how that works in terms of walkways, you know, making sure that we've got plenty of space, which we do over here on the left hand side for the fire door in the corner. What's probably not very clear is over here in the plans we have a roller door that does not need to be used the whole time. And because of the fact that inflatable attractions are semi-permanent structures, we're able to work around that. So if they have a new ride, like an arcade game, or if they have a big delivery of drinks or food or things like that, we've designed it in a way that that corner unit, which is the wrecking ball, can be folded back to allow access. So it does, with what we provide in terms of the inflatable parks, it does allow flexibility that other attractions, hard fixed attractions, can't do. Which just plays into that whole thing of, if you have a difficult space or you need access sometimes to a certain area, we can work around that. And from this we go into not just the plan side, but we can do those isometric views, so we can see with the ceiling heights that we've drawn out the walls to make sure that we're within tolerances of any beams or air conditioning ducts or sprinkler heads or things like that. And we can start to see how the park is coming alive. And from there, we go in and produce these final engineering drawings. Now, prior to this drawing being finished, there was no purple in this. And this is a good example of, in engineering, is the final time that we can make any changes, because this is what we cut all the material from, and that includes colors. So the logo of AirCity 360 slightly changed, and they intensified the purple in their logo, and they wanted to reflect that in the park. So this is all of a sudden when the skirt on the Meltdown, or the arrows on the Ninja wall, or all these little touches of purple suddenly came into the design. And this was the final opportunity to do this, because what comes next is stage 6, which is the confirmation, manufacturing and shipping of the product. So stage 6 is more of an admin level. We have gone through the fun of the concept designs, we have tweaked and really dialed in our engineering to make sure that it's perfect. And then at this point, we will present you with a DocuSign PDF to sign, where we will give you different views, from plan views, isometric views of the park, with measurements on that you can review. And this is the final sign off. This is you saying that, yes, everything that you show me is correct to my knowledge, and I want to proceed with this. And once we have that signed, that is when we move into the actual manufacturing. So stage 7 is installation, and before the installation team gets on site, we will go through a quick survey with you to check that everything's in order. We need to make sure that the floor is smooth and clean. And earlier on in the process, we'll have sent you a power consumption calculator based on your facility. So how much power supply do you need to run the blowers or any mechanical elements that are based in the park? Once that's done, we are there then on site. As you can see from these AirCity 360 pictures, the units being laid out, the blowers running across the back and down the side of where the inflation is going to go, where the power outlets are built. Nice, obviously, with this being a new build, the floor was perfect because it was brand new. And we can see the installation process go in its different phases. So from clean floor and laying out inflatables to units being installed, you can see some of the Velcro that still needs doing. We're just getting everything into place at this point. And the next unit in its position, ready to be installed. So this is the real exciting time. Installation, depending on the size of the project, can be as little as 2 to 3 days. If it's really small, we can probably do it in a day. This project, I believe, took 2.5 days, and maybe 3 if we include the video and photography part of it. But this is always the exciting time when you see this come to life. Stage 8 is safety, maintenance, and operational training. So our team on scene will walk you through the manual and take you through each element step by step to train you on each module that's in the park. This is super crucial, and we'll typically do this with a handful of staff, usually upper management, who will then filter down and train your other staff that are on scene. We will also teach you some maintenance techniques and things to look out for keeping the equipment in its best condition and the cleanest condition as well. How to set up, how to break down, troubleshooting any issues, and basically walking you through the comprehensive manual that you will receive with the product. Stage 9 is lights, camera, action. This is something that we do not only for ourselves so that we have great video and images of the parks that we install, but it also gives you a marketing tool straight out the gates so that you can use those videos yourself. So just to run through some of the stills that we picked up here from AirCity 360, you can see in the background the still crates and construction equipment going on, but just to see how the whole project comes to life from those initial renders, these touches of purple that we highlighted in previous phases that start to come alive. And as we go through, you just get to see all the little details, every single safety label on every single piece of equipment, and getting every single angle to see what works best. Like some of these are some of our favorite marketing images that we've taken. And it just goes to show how we've utilized every square inch of this park, and to create the visibility for guests as they're walking around so that they can see their friends playing. But it's not just inside. We, with this being a new build, I think it was a great example to show what can be done in terms of parking and layout and signage. So we took some external pictures for them that they could use for their marketing, or even just for something simple as their Google Maps listing. There's little details like that often go overlooked. But you can see in the background there's still other vendors working on building the other attractions in different areas. But it just gives you an insight, and we'll add in the video as well, the video link, because this is one of the best videos that we've done. But once we have taken all these pictures, we will edit that and we will provide you with a unwatermarked version of the video so that you can use that for your own marketing. And it's just one of the little features that we like to offer here at Galaxy Multi-Rides. So that was how to design an inflatable park with us here at Galaxy Multi-Rides. Thank you for sticking with us. I know this has been a long video, but if you have any questions whatsoever, you can reach out to us. My email is mike@galaxymultirides.com. If you're looking for more information and more examples on different size parks, we have a full range of case studies and examples on the website at galaxymultirides.com. If you would like more of this content, I know this has been a long video, but it's been a lot of fun to make. So if you do, let us know in the comments below, and maybe we'll pick a bit of a harder one, or a park that needs reimaginating, needs a space, maybe a trampoline park conversion or something like that. But for now, thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.